Today, we're not just telling a ghost story. We're going to take it apart, piece by piece. This is all about how a local legend can survive and honestly, even get stronger in our digital world. And our case study for this is Chicago's most famous ghost of all, Resurrection Mary. Just picture it. It is late, you're driving down this long, dark stretch of road called Archer Avenue, just outside Chicago. Your headlights are the only thing cutting through the pitch black. And then you see her, a young woman all by herself on the side of the road wearing a white dress. What do you do? That single moment, that question, is the spark that lit a fire under a legend that's been haunting the city for almost 100 years.
And this isn't some one-off thing. For decades, drivers have reported the exact same unsettling encounter. It's a story that's been woven right into the fabric of Chicago folklore, all about a chilling ride with a very mysterious passenger.
So you pull over. I mean, most people would. She's beautiful, but something is a little off. She's strangely quiet, almost like she's not really there. She gets into your passenger seat, and her white party dress seems to kind of glow in the dashboard light. You ask where she's going, and she gives you a simple direction. That's it. It's the perfect setup for what folklorists call the vanishing hitchhiker, one of the most famous ghost stories in the entire world.
Now, what's really fascinating is that while little details might change from one telling to the next, the core story of Resurrection Mary has this incredibly consistent structure. It's like a 4-act play that just gets performed over and over again on Archer Avenue.
Okay, so let's break it down. Act 1, the sighting. It's almost always a young woman, blonde hair, in a white party dress. Act 2, the ride. The driver picks her up, but she's a silent passenger, and some people even say she feels cold to the touch. Act 3, the destination. As they get close to Resurrection Cemetery, she suddenly gets anxious and asks to be let out right there. And then, the finale, the disappearance. The second the car pulls up to the main gates of the cemetery, she's just gone, vanished, right out of the car.
You know, what gives this story so much power is that it's anchored in real physical places. A lot of versions of the tale say she spent her last night dancing at the Willowbrook Ballroom, which sadly burned down a few years back. And her final stop, of course, is always the huge iron gates of Resurrection Cemetery. These locations make the story feel less like a myth and more like a piece of local history you could actually go visit. And that connection to real places leads everyone to the same big question. Was Resurrection Mary a real person? This is where the ghost story starts to feel more like a detective story. That urge to solve the mystery, to find the true story is just so powerful, isn't it? It's human nature. We want to put a name and a face to the ghost. And believe me, people have tried. Historians, reporters, and tons of amateur sleuths have spent years digging through old records, looking for a young woman whose tragic death matches the story. All that research is basically boiled down to 2 main candidates. On one side, you've got Mary Bregovy. She died in a car crash back in 1934 and is buried in Resurrection Cemetery. Seems like a good fit. But then you have Anna Norkus, who died in a car crash in 1927 after leaving a ballroom. The thing is, the fact that there isn't one clear answer, that people still debate it, is actually part of what keeps this whole legend alive and kicking.
But here's where it gets really interesting for us today. This isn't just a story told around a campfire anymore. Resurrection Mary has a whole second life online, and she's thriving in this massive digital world.
And when you look at where her story lives online, it's this incredible mix. You've got paranormal websites and tourism blogs making up about half of the conversation. But what's really cool is that you also have serious academic archives and major news outlets talking about her too. Each one plays a totally different role in keeping her story from, well, dying. So from a scholarly point of view, Mary is a perfect specimen. Places like the University of Illinois and the Chicago History Museum, they actually archive and study her story. To them, she's not necessarily a real ghost, but a perfect example of the vanishing hitchhiker story. A piece of folklore that tells us a lot about our own fears about death and the unknown. Then you've got the news. I swear, every single October you can count on local news channels to run a story on Resurrection Mary. This keeps the legend fresh in the public's mind, introducing her to a whole new generation and cementing her status as a local icon. She's as much a part of Chicago as deep dish pizza at this point. But on the paranormal side of the internet, this is not just folklore. This is an active case. For ghost hunting communities, people are online right now sharing personal encounters, arguing over blurry photos, and analyzing audio files for spirit voices. For them, she's a real phenomenon to be investigated, not just a story to be told. And of course, where there's a great ghost story, there's tourism.
Travel sites like Atlas Obscura frame Resurrection Cemetery and Archer Avenue as must-see spots for dark tourists. The ghost story becomes a product, an attraction that brings curious visitors and their money to this otherwise quiet part of town.
What is just so incredible is watching how Resurrection Mary has adapted. In the 1930s, her story spread by word of mouth. By the 70s, she was famous in books about folklore. In the 90s, she went national on TV shows like Unsolved Mysteries, and today, she's all over blogs, social media, and YouTube. She has successfully jumped to every new form of media that's come along.
So what does all this really tell us? The survival of Resurrection Mary isn't just about a spooky ghost. It's about the incredible power of a good story and the basic human needs that these kinds of stories meet.
A legend like this lasts for a century because it does a few things perfectly. It connects us to a real place and its history. It taps into those universal fears we all have about death and what comes next. It invites everyone to be a part of the story, to share it, to debate it. And as we saw, it's a master of adapting to new technology. But maybe most importantly, it never gives you a final answer. It always, always leaves a little room for mystery.
Which brings us to one last question. We live in this age of information, right? Where it feels like you can Google the answer to anything. So why do we still need these stories? Why do we still need ghosts? Well, maybe it's because they remind us that not everything can be explained or cataloged or solved with an algorithm, and that some mysteries are just more interesting when they stay mysteries.